things have been handled. So it is for the journalist to balance the conflicting viewpoints and come up with an objective account of the events that has happened. Then comes the somewhat reliable sources. See, this means that these sources may be less reliable compared to the above mentioned reliable sources which we have discussed now, but it could still turn out to be useful. Okay, examples may include persons like some officers who may, for instance, be, some junior assistants, or sudden, they tend to travel with their superiors and then take part in the meetings to discuss the issues. Okay, those who are indirectly involved and along with their counterparts. So such sources would certainly not be authorized to officially disclose information, right? But they can still be important sources of news about some possible developments. Okay. For instance, we can say a reporter may not be able to meet a minister on a daily basis, right? Because of the hectic schedule. But with a regular contact with his office staff or his personal assistant, it may be possible to gather some, nuggets of news. We can also say that a casual remark made by an officer may end up as a lead for an exclusive news story also. We never know, right? So when the news is not coming from the, direct sources, the reporter should cross-check it with the other sources or get it confirmed by the concerned officer. Okay. Then after that comes sources which cannot be fully trusted. The information from such sources needs to be handled with utmost care, because when the source who revealed is not at all connected to the issue. So this source is not directly or indirectly, means neither directly or not indirectly connected to the issue. What it does is, journalists need to take care before going ahead with this news item, which has been provided by these kind of sources. You need to verify the fact. And one instance that really comes to mind is the, there is a statement made in Parliament by the then Prime Minister Moraji Desai regarding the death of Jayaprakash Narayan. Okay, even when the minister he was still alive, this was based on the PTI report issued from the Mumbai city. So one can imagine the severe embarrassment caused to the union government at that time, right? Because of the false news, of the fake news. So this brings us to the issue that news feeds from even normally reliable sources needs to be thoroughly cross-checked and fact-checked before putting them in the public domain for dissemination. And then apart from this, there are another way of classification of news sources, and they can be classified as primary sources. These may be persons directly involved in the event or issue, and hence they can be in a position to provide accurate details. And then, however, there is always the possibility that the person, say a survivor of a mishap, he may be a bit, traumatized to recall what exactly happened to him or her, right? So a political leader may be more keen to present information from his perspective alone. So it is therefore very essential to, check the facts from other sources as well. And this will impart balance and a credibility, and we can say provide an objectivity to the entire story. So it's very important to get your facts cross-checked. Okay, then we also have routine sources. Okay, see, beats are the most common for the routine sources. Beats, right? What are different types of beats, the different genres, right? So for different types of genres, we have different, for different types of beats, we have different types of sources, routine sources, right? Those who provide information on a regular basis. Okay. See, since media organizations have started assigning reporters to specific story areas or beats, right? For example, police or sometimes courts, legislators, and then we also have the secretariat reporting on a daily basis these days, right? So reporters assigned to beats are expected to pick up newsworthy items on their own by either interacting with the officials, and then they can also speak, held meetings and then discussions with the respective departments or organizations which they have been assigned. Okay, we can see some organizations like the Greater Hyderabad Municipal Corporation, right? Police Department, Then we have Hyderabad Metropolitan Water and Sewage Board, TSRTC, okay? And many other companies have designated public relations officers or PROs to provide newsworthy information on a regular basis. So, the police also gives updates about the crime situations or the investigation of a crime, right? They won't deny you. They'll give you first-hand information as well. So companies reveal information about new products or changes in the top hierarchy based on the importance. So press conferences addressed by important persons can also be included in this category. Okay, since the schedule and venue are known in advance. So routine sources could also include news agencies. We have news agencies like PTI, UNI, we have Reuters, AP, AFP, right? All these news agencies. So these agencies have teams of reporters and they have special correspondents, they have news editors and sub-editors, right? And these agencies provide news to media organizations on subscription basis, as you are aware of it. So these also comes under routine sources. Then the news provided by routine sources will not always be routine in nature, right? Each time some new dimension of fact will come to light. So it calls for special skills, knowledge, and expertise on the part of the reporter. See, since he cannot be present all the time on his beat, right? So hence it is imperative to remain in constant touch with the key persons who are either decision makers or have the necessary information. So such a sustained contact will not only ensure coverage of routine items, but may even help the reporter also to obtain scoops. What are scoops? Scoops means exclusive news stories which are not carried by other media organization. Okay, you are the first one to carry that report. That is known as scoop. Okay. So in the highly competitive media world now, failure to obtain scoops is not viewed highly because we are constantly in a competitive world, right? Every media organization is in competition with each other to carry the news first. So now let us briefly discuss some of the more common and assured sources of news, or we can call as beats, in some detail. Right? I told you there are different kinds of beats like parliament, legislature, police, crime, right? Courts. So let us discuss in detail about those. See, coming to parliament and legislature, these can be major sources of news, especially when important issues are discussed. And then there are some major bills passed. Okay. So reporting of the proceedings needs to be undertaken with a lot of care so as not to infringe on the privileges of parliamentarians or legislatures. See, for instance, if the Speaker of Lok Sabha or a state assembly announces that comments or remarks of a particular member would not go into records. So the reporters are not supposed to publish the comments, okay? The attribution of motives or to the members of the chair would attract a privilege motion. That means if you are told not to mention, you don't have to mention, okay? Then for courts, see, these are also major news sources, right? Especially when important cases are heard and judgments are passed. So no wonder a lot of emotional drama can be witnessed in courts as well. So until a couple of decades ago, the media used to cover only judgments passed by the courts. So, but now media covers sensational and interesting cases at the time of hearings as well. See, there are some examples like Satyam, 2G Spectrum, and other cases, right? So here too, the reporters have to exercise caution to avoid attracting contempt of court or defamation prosecution or provisions. Okay, the reporters, should report only the verdict, but not attribute motives to the court or the judges. Only the verdict has to be reported. Then we have a police beat. See, this is a source with a rich story potential, right? Because crime stories are very common these days. If you open a newspaper, you find crime stories everywhere, right? So this beat is important even for all the media groups because as crime news is also widely read. If the beat here it is exhaustive in nature and can include issues like general crime. Then they have mishaps, explosions, and also police, and changes in the department. There are, transfers and some changes in the police department that can also be reported. Okay. Then The police beat can entail sustained monitoring of calls and messages, right? Then they can have close monitoring with officers, PROs. Then they can also examine the FIR or jails admissions, like what are the new FIRs records, and access all the forms of crime and crime statistics as well. Okay, what is the rate of crime in the city? Okay, which type of crime is reported? What is the percentage? So all those statistics can also be gathered from the police. Then conferences, seminars, and symposia. These can have a great deal of topical interest depending on the theme. Okay, so the principal speakers and the organizations involved. See, for instance, we have this Confederation of Indian Conducts Industries, right? Confederation of Indian Industry. What they do is they hold press conferences, seminars during the presentation by the union budget. So that can also be reported. And these are also the sources of news. Then we have interviews. Okay. See, interviews are face-to-face interactions with the newsmakers themselves, right? We have eyewitnesses to an event or members of the general public reacting to an event of consequence to them, the importance to them. Like we have the election results or the central or state budgets, right? So interviews may be conducted in person, over the phone, or even over the internet. And the person gathering news through this mode needs to have a high degree of soft skills. Okay. He should have reasonable background information about the interviewee and also the subject. And there is also need to be alert enough to raise supplementary questions, right? That means the follow-up questions, and to keep the interview at ease. So, see, for example, if a journalist is interviewing a scientist on, for example, stem cells related research, he or she should have basic knowledge of the subject or need to do some homework or research before going for the interview. And in interviews also, aggressive and personal questions, okay, if these are not relevant, should be avoided. And it must be ensured that the interviewer does not become, akin or a suspect with police investigator or quizzing an accused. All this should be avoided. See, after all, the interview is, have some restrictions to some information of interest, and care should be taken, right, to protect him. So any interview calls for a considerable amount of, a considerable amount of homework should be done on part of the journalist. A research should be done, and he or she must have clarity about the information being sought. Means he should have clarity on what he's going to speak and what are the questions he's going to ask. And then listing of questions to be asked can be of great help. And then otherwise, there is always the risk of the reporters not having any more questions to ask, right? So this may result in improper utilization of the time being allotted to the reporter for the interview. And there are occasions when the interview may insist on having, the questions in advance, probably to facilitate prior preparation or to keep the necessary background information at hand. So such a demand should normally be, exceeded. You have to respond to that demand. That means you need to prepare the questions in advance. And one thing is essential, right? To win the confidence of the interviewee, okay? That the interviewer is serious about the subject and will present the contents of the interview in a fair and responsible manner. That means you need to maintain the objectivity. You don't have to present your viewpoints in the story, okay? And then there are times when the interviewee discloses off the record information, right? That means he doesn't want to mention his name. So the reporter should, ascertain if the entire information should be blacked out or if some part of information can be used without disclosing the name of the source. See, we can say if you don't ask the right questions, you won't get the right answers, right? So to sum up, we can say that the interview content can also be very important news. It's a very essential part of the story. Okay. Clear about interviews? Then we also have some written sources, okay? The written reports can make an excellent source of information for a journalist, right? So these can include press releases issued by government departments, then civic bodies or political parties, etc., right? Then we can also have text of speeches. We can have company reports or coverage of items in other newspapers as well. Okay. So in these cases, the version is generally one-sided, and it's it leaves a little or no scope to see clarifications here because it's already published by the other side. So this issue can be better addressed in a press briefing. If you have any doubts, you can call a press briefing and you can get the clarification then on the other part or the other side of the story. Then sources can be also be some leaked documents, okay? Which means these could include documents which have not been officially released to the press. Okay. So the persons giving such documents may either be, some person within the organization, or those who feel that the public, have the right to know what is all going on within the organization. So, but they do not have the authority to reveal the facts on their own. They are not, supposed to reveal those facts. So here a word of caution: just because the information has been revealed from inside, it should not always be taken at face value. That means it needs to be also cross-checked. And there is still the need to check the particular document for accuracy as well, okay? Because some facts might be distorted for the personal interest of the person who is revealing that information. That person who reveals the information is within the organization but do not wants to come into picture is known as whistleblower. Okay, then we have secondary sources. Secondary sources include persons who are not actually newsmakers, but who pass it on, means who pass on the news. So these include designated, we have spokespersons, right, or media relations officers. And then one problem with such sources is that generally the information provided may be only one-sided, okay, promoting their party or their organization. So hence there is need to confirm the reliability of secondary sources. Okay, this is not first hand. And then we have some tip-offs, like in an age when reporters, reporters are in a rush for the scoops, right, to get the first hand information, to get the first story published. So sometimes they may be a victim to fake news. So there is a tip-off. It's an anonymous person who drops clear hints about something taking place or about to occur. So that person who gives you a hint, who gives the reporter a hint about a event about to occur is known as tip-off. So tip-offs can not only be a person, but it can be some letters or telephone calls or email, okay, giving you a hint of the event. And these tip-offs, they need to be handled with care, because since the message may actually turn out to be a prank, right, a fake one. So here also proper verification should be done. And journalists should also take care before publishing or telecasting these news items by doing some research or homework, okay? They can, including the collection of evidence, or, making sure the news from the authorities is from the right person. So here also cross verification is very important. Now I was speaking about, the attribution, right? So what is attribution? See, news becomes much more authentic and reliable when the reporter cites the source, right? He mentions the name of the source, the designation of the source from which the information has been obtained. Then only we can say that the information is reliable. This is known as attribution. Attribution is the, providing the name, designation of the source. Source means of the person or people who have provided you the information, right? So the source may either be the person interviewed or the document, which you have used to develop the news story. So all this can be at your news sources, and this has to be attributed. We can say that attribution can be of 3 types. Okay. One attribution is on the record. On the record means here the persons providing the information are comfortable with their names and, their designations being mentioned in the news story. They are comfortable in citing their, details. So such persons understand the reporters need to give an accurate account of what they said, right? So here the effect can be substantially enhanced by using the exact words or the voices. In case of television news, electronic media, okay, the direct quotes can be said, which the person has been interviewed. So the credibility factor also comes into play, since the readers or the listeners or the viewers they are assured about the identity of the person. They are aware that who is the person who is giving this information. So they'll trust the story more, right? Then we have non-attributable. See, there may be occasions. See, there may be some occasions when the news sources provides information, but is reluctant to give his or name, and then he's reluctant to be cited as the source, right? So here a possible reason for this could be on anonymity. That means that the person may not be officially authorized to give the information, but feels it is of public interest. So that's the reason he wants to provide that information, but he wants to remain anonymous, means he does not want his name to be cited. So an instance of non-attributable information can be, see, when a politician providing details of a, of some plan under consideration, like what are the possible plan they are going to implement, all those things, the budgets. So he or she can pursue or abandon the scheme based on the public reaction to that. If there is some new bill coming out in the parliament, all these things, if a person plans to reveal that information which is for public interest. So this could be, one way to unofficially gauge public opinion or an issue, right? So the reporter here needs to handle news from such sources with a lot of care. And you can also, use words like according to a reliable source. Okay. Because you're not allowed to mention the name and designation of your source, right? So you can just mention according to a reliable source, and you can continue the story. Then we have off the record. See, off the record, this is the most sensitive issue, since the source would not want either his or her name or facts mentioned in the news story as well. So he just want to give you information, but he doesn't want that facts to be published. So such information is generally too sensitive to be discussed publicly at that point of time. So it is a measure of the source confidence in the reporter's sense of fair play and responsibility. And in such situations, the journalists use the words, see, on condition of anonymity, or they can also say that the officer who does not wish to be named. So you can mention like this and continue the story. Okay. Any doubts here on sources and types of sources? The internet is also one of the type of source. Okay. We can say, right? See, with the spread of information technology, the internet has emerged as a potent news source. Okay. Scoring over other sources, since it can facilitate collection, collation, and then analysis, interpretation, and also dissemination of information, right? See, while the internet has emerged as an efficient tool of reporting, it can only supplement, okay, and then it can only supplement the conventional means of reporting that we have been doing from so many years. So in the recent years, we can say that the internet has redefined news, and it has, we can say astonishingly, the quick information transfer also makes constants of time zones here, and the geographical variants. See, they are totally irrelevant. The technology interface provided by internet and the revolutionary broadband technology today, what they had done, they has enabled several simultaneous activities on a single platform. Okay. And they had also blurred the distinction between the source and the receiver now. Right. You agree with that, right? See, one of the major facilitators of computer-assisted reporting is that the wealth of information is already available on the databases and websites of the organizations. So you can always go there and check. So that can be a valuable source for you. And the other advantage of the internet is the convergence of the information, including text, pictures, then graphics, audio, and video. Okay, and also as we discussed yesterday, hyperlinking, right? So one disadvantage associated with the content available on the internet is the reliability, for sure. because there is so much of information, right, which is bombarded, and then it's difficult for you to assess the information, right, whether it can be trusted or not. So because the web also allows editing on the content on the net, right? Wikipedia can also be edited, as you know. So, and some people can, erroneously deliberately, they can remove or incorporate the matter of their choice, right? This can also be possible. So this may lead to posing of incorrect information and misleading, right? Misleading the reader. So the information available on the internet is generally fed by humans. So facts or figures can, sometimes be misleading. So that has to be taken care of. And I said you, right, some websites, especially encyclopedia sites, can be edited by anybody. And it also provides different versions on the same issues or matters, right? So the person searching for information has to cross-check the information with other sources also. See, regarding the authenticity of the content posted, but then it is also very likely that an fact carried on one site can be easily replicated by other sites, right? They can be easily edited. So here it needs to be stressed that databases and websites generally provide data and figures, so which may be, sometimes misleading to many readers and viewers. So it is for the reporter to draw inferences and present these in the proper context, and also sometimes in an easily understandable manner, okay, for the target audiences. And public records have always been of interest to journalists reporting on the performance of public officials, right, and the government reporting. So the advent of computerized devices and the database has made it easier to locate, analyze, and interpret information for public interest, okay, in a very friendly manner. So this is also one of the major sources. And then the information that is obtained I told you, right, may need to be cross-checked, often from multiple sources, not only from one source. See, it may seem strange, but the internet can be used to locate information that is already available with the newspaper itself, right? See, as students of journalism, you would be aware of mocks in newspaper offices, the archive section, right? Yeah, we discussed in the first class about the archives. So here all possible reference material like copies of previous issues and subject-wise background information is stored for possible use in the future or for research purposes. So that is known as morgue, right? The archive section is known as morgue. So one problem with a conventional morgue is that one may have to wait, through tons of files depend on, especially there are some librarians who maintain these clippings in the newspaper organizations, right? So you have to go through tons of papers to, reach your target information. But the computerized morgue has made the task of retrieval of background information much more convenient here. See, for example, you can go through the Deccan Chronicle newspaper website. Okay, go to the archive section. Just click on the day, okay, which you want to retrieve the information, the page, the beat, right? You can select and directly you can access that information, right? It will save your time. It has become much more convenient now. And the internet is finding applications in the area of reporting as well now, okay? Because a conventional interview may require the reporter to be face-to-face with the source, right? Now, time, space, and privacy constraints can be major issues in such interview, okay? Because sources are usually busy. So the internet can, it can deplete some of these issues in this regard. See, the interview can get more time to frame his responses and avoid blurting. You can just directly mail your questions to the interviewer, right? So one drawback of the internet is that the reporter may not be able to notice the body language of the other person, because what they do is the reporter would send the question through mail, and the interviewer will respond back through the mail, right, with the written answers. But here one thing, so also, body language also cannot be seen, and you can also cannot also ask the follow-up questions, right? Because once the interview has responded back, then it's very difficult to gauge and get back to those follow-up questions. Okay, these are all about news sources. Now, how to develop news sources? Okay, see, as already mentioned, I told you it is for the journalist to develop his or her own reliable sources through the contacts, right? So those as we discussed, the sources can include persons who have the information or are in decision-making positions. And then awareness about assured and potential news sources, and then sustained interaction with the concerned persons, right? All these can help in obtaining reliable news. And the news sources are very valuable resources since they can give the right information and also help impart a sense of direction to the news story. Okay. Then see how to develop your news sources means firstly we need to have a personal touch. Okay, a personal touch with the reporter, with the sources also. A reporter should have a personal touch. For example, see, you can always greet. First thing is greeting. Okay, first you have to introduce yourself and your organization. Okay, then you have to there comes the statement of purpose. Here the purpose is to put the source at ease, at comfort, and not put him in with a heavy duty interview in the very first meeting. You don't have to tell that you are going to conduct an interview with very soon. Okay, you don't have to put him in pressure there. Then there comes personal touch point. That means you have to use cues from or information from your preparation to show your interest in the source as a person. Okay, you have to show some interest. It would be especially helpful if both of you have or same on the if you both of them have the same wavelength regarding some hobbies, some common interest. You have to have some common interest like hobbies, career goals, interest. Okay, that is some personal touch point. Then you need to do some homework. See, if you are able to say I have been reading that you are in the midst of a major product, that means the source would know that you have done your homework, your proper research, right? So then there should be credibility, and you have to establish your credentials for covering the beat, right? And then you have to have special care should be taken that your attempt to strike a favorable impression does not degenerate into a monologue on your resume. That means you have to build that trust. You don't have to bang about yourself. You have to build that trust, credibility with your source. You have to maintain continuing relationship with your source. See, the source should be made to know that you will be on their beat for a reasonable time, so that he or she should show interest in continuing the relationship. It's not like that. See, you have taken the interview, you have gained that information, and then from next time you're not in touch with the source, right? It should not be like that. You should maintain a continuing relationship with your source. And then you have to take care of the future arrangement as well. That means, see, till now you have not spoken anything about the subject on which you need information from the source, for example. So once you are sure that the source is at ease talking with you, once you have developed a rapport, you could ask him or her for some time to talk about, for example, the things you are doing and would like to be done. So that means you are making future arrangements, future plannings for the next interview. So this is very important. And then you have to sustain confidence of the source. It is not enough to register your presence with a source, right? More important is to win his or her confidence through your work. Okay. So there are some steps that needs to be followed to win the confidence of your source, okay, through the work that you have done. See, for example, we can have past coverage, okay. See, ascertain from the news sources the strength and weakness in the earlier reports. So you have to show them the earlier reports that that you have published. This will help the source to express his or her opinion and establish your openness to change. If the source doesn't like the style of writing or the quote you have given, if needs to be, you can always experiment with that. And also there is every possibility of the sources being flattered by your interest in their opinion. It can happen, right? With the with the past coverage also, it will happen, and it may be less, he may be very less hostile towards you. He may develop more interest to reveal more information towards your story. And then see, agreed interviewing is a means of to gather information, but it may also help you to let the source know that you have done your homework. That means proper research, right? And this can also win the confidence of the source. And then the initial stories can be watched with a lot of interest, right? See, for example, if a source see there is a wrong spelling, a wrong title, or an error of fact, that will what it will decrease your credibility, right? If you have done that in your past stories, it will reflect in your credibility. So therefore, you have to be sure to avoid such such things in the future as well. So before proceeding further, see, let us consider a small anecdote about where to tap the sources. See, for example, we can say that in a certain factory, a particular machine stopped functioning. So as a result, the production activity virtually come to a halt. Now an expert was, assigned to rectify that defect in that machine. So for example, if he simply asked for a hammer, with that he tapped 5 times at a certain spot. Okay, you just imagine that. So at once the machine rolled back, means started working. So the grateful now management was very grateful and asked the expert to present his bill. So for, now, if the that expert cited a huge amount, the accounts department will want a detailed breakup of that bill, right? So if the expert respond with more than 5 times extra amount, if he charged that, then where to tap. That means there is something wrong. So here, this can be an example of that. So now journalism schools, what they do is they teach students how to report and file their news stories. But the skills about the, places and how to tap something, means how to tap the sources, resources with the individual has to be developed. Okay. Still, here the basic element I would say would be the communication skills. Both oral and written is very important here. So one needs to, inspire confidence about one's, truthfulness, trustworthiness, and also, sense of fair playing and also reliability. That means especially not leaking information which has been provided to you. Okay, that is, you have higher responsibility here. So once confidence is built and established over a period of time, the source will continue to provide you information. Okay, without you approaching the source, he will continue to provide you with information. And if on the other hand, if the trust is betrayed, the reporter can be assured that the particular gateway to information will be closed forever. He will not agree, or he will not be willing to provide you any information, right? See, contacts are developed over a period of time. One meets, potential sources at all possible places. For example, you can meet your sources at social events. Then sometimes, if you're traveling in a public transport, meetings, and if you're attending a seminar, anywhere, right? So the essence should be on counting the association with them through personal contact. Okay, you can now in an era of WhatsApp, you can just ping them. You can remain in touch with them, a good morning or a, good evening message, just hi, hello, the through phone calls or emails as well, right? So one needs to take care not to appear too intrusive. That means you don't have to disturb them, but the patience, you have to act with patience, persistence, and also you have to respect the other person's time. Okay, these are the important things should you need to remember as a reporter. Okay, when you're developing contact with your sources. See, talking of persistence, it would be pertinent to recall the nature of a reporter, right? So you don't have to you know uh, bombard your sources with lot of irrelevant messages. Okay, you don't have to do that. Okay, 1 second. Please let me know if you have doubt in any of this topic on sources or how to develop sources or contacts. You can unmute yourself and ask, or you can put your questions in the chat box as well. Any doubts? Okay, so now let's discuss some, some things to be avoided as a reporter. Okay, few things that needs to be avoided as a reporter with your sources. See, now till now we have been discussing the importance of news sources and the various categories of sources, the beat systems, and how to cultivate these news sources, right? Now, an understanding of these will help us to be, more balanced and objective in our news reports. Then, what are some things that needs to be avoided as a reporter? Okay. See, one thing should be avoided is the over familiarity with the source. That means if we get too close to the source, chances are that we may end up presenting the news items from his or her perspective, right? So as reporters, we are supposed to be detached and we are supposed to be impartial, but our becoming too familiar with the source may turn us as into insiders, right? So too much of socializing may take reporter obliged to his or her. Yes. You want to know the difference between mass media and mass communication, Pallavi? See, mass communication means communicating with the masses. We have different types of communication, right? Like personal communication, group communication, interpersonal communication, group communication, and we have something called as mass communication. Mass communication is dissemination of information to a heterogeneous audience, right? Wide variety of audiences. Okay. So mass communication is the dissemination of information to wide variety of people or heterogeneous audience whom we are not aware of, right? We are not sure that who are the audiences, who are our target audiences. It can be anybody, somebody from rural area, urban area, or literate, illiterate. Anybody can be our audience. So mass media is the vehicle. We can say the mass media or the media channels are the vehicles that carry our information to the masses. That means we have different types of mass media. We have print media, we have electronic media, right? Now we also have new media, right? Print media includes newspapers, magazines, right? Brochures, pamphlets, leaflets, all these are print media. In electronic media, we have television, right? We have internet, radio, okay, audio, video. All these things are mass media, vehicles of mass media. Through this mass media, the information is disseminated to the people, to the audiences based on the target group. Okay. For example, if your audiences are based in rural area, then radio can be an effective medium to disseminate your information. Okay. If your target audience are literate, then newspapers can be an effective source, effective medium to carry your information. So this is mass media. It's clear, Pallavi? Okay. So I told you, right? Over familiarity with the source should be avoided. Okay. Too much socializing with the source should be avoided because we may be considered as an insider of the story. Okay. Whenever you're trying to report a story with that particular source, you may be considered as very close to the sources. So then, your report can be considered as a biased report. So that should be avoided. And there is also the risk of the stories getting stereotyped or the reporters getting so involved in the subject that they may also lose their focus on the perspective, right? So it must be, borne in mind that the reporter's primary obligation is towards the readers or their viewers. So the news stories can remain objective when the reporter let the source know that he or she is not a publicity agent for the source, right? Your news story should be objective and it should be meant only for the readers, for your readers. So another way is to let the source know that you are equally interested in knowing the viewpoint of the other side. Okay. But you should make it clear to your source that you are writing for your reader. Okay. is you are interested in just objective reporting. Then a reporter covering, for example, courts may come across several legal terms every day, right? We have some legal terms like warrant and, public interest litigation. So this technical terminology should be, simplified. And the lay reader may not know, like, what are these terminologies, public interest litigation. And so people, your readers may not be aware of this technical terminology. And similarly, in police jargon also, there are some, words, some terms, okay? So that should be simplified with a, with a simpler, normal language for your readers to understand. Okay. Then we also have the RTI, like Right to Information Act, as a major source of information, okay, these days. See, it has been increasingly felt that any democracy can be meaningful only when the citizens are informed and vigilant, right? And if only the citizens are highly informed. So when a common citizen, for example, has a proper understanding of what, why, and how, all the 5 Ws and 1H of what the government is doing and how are they functioning, okay, are they meeting the obligation towards the common man, all these are the concerns of a common man. So it's their duty to expect the government to be transparent in their perform in their duties. So that's also RTI is also, what is RTI? The RTI Act, the Right to Information Act was, implemented in 2005 as a boon to the general public to know their rightful information on the issues pertaining to the, common people. So the RTI Act provides an opportunity to get information which is in public domain with just an application on a plain paper and a nominal fee of ₹10. So the concerned official, they have to provide the information to the applicant within the the given time frame of 30 days. Okay, this is the RTI Act, and the RTI Act not only allows the media in playing a more constructive role in bringing in transparency in governments, but it also strengthens the democratic quality of the countries, of the society. By using the RTI Acts also, the media can highlight and even investigate issues and concerns that are, interest to the larger public, which is for larger public interest. So not only journalists, anybody, any common citizen can obtain any information through the RTI Act. So the advantage with the RTI Act is it provides the media to write and report stories with credibility and accuracy. Okay. And many journalists are now gathering information under RTI, which was not earlier available, right? Even to the media or information that was not been provided to the journalists by the government departments before 2005. So now media houses are also encouraging the journalists to get information under RTI. So this is a social weapon, right? By using this social weapon, the media not only investigate the issues, but also write articles on whether government schemes are reaching to the genuine beneficiaries, or are they implemented at the grassroots levels. All these can be assessed through RTI Act. And unfortunately, we can say many intended beneficiaries may not be aware of welfare schemes that are meant for them, especially in the rural areas. So an individual may generally seek information of direct importance to him or consequence to him or her, and addresses questions accordingly through the RTI Act. And then on the other hand, the media would tend to raise questions pertaining to the public at large, right? So it would be therefore, they can also frame their queries accordingly. So to that extent, we can say that media can use the RTI to highlight and even investigate issues that concern the larger public interest. Okay. So the aim of the RTI Act is to ensure that the genuine information needs of the public are satisfied and are given to the public. So this would be possible only when the media effectively performs its role, right, as an disseminator of information, on creating, on educating people, on giving awareness, okay, or also at the level of generating information, okay. See, with the right to information on their side, the media no longer depend on, other sources, because they can directly obtain the information through this RTI Act from the, any government officials. Okay, there I'll give you many examples of RTI, how the reporters have used RTI and got many, information and exposed many what we say, there are many scams that were going on in some particular schemes. So that were busted through RTI Act. So now are you clear about what is RTI and how can you obtain an information through an RTI Act? Okay, then journalists can also obtain. Okay, journalists can also obtain the information through reference materials, such as reports to develop their news stories. For example, there is something called as CAG report, Comptroller and Auditor General, right? Have you heard about that? The CAG, it gives reports on various government departments. Okay, this can also be a good source of news. Okay, this can also be the example. So the media houses or journalists should make use of these reports and documents, not only for getting details on a particular subject or issue, but also to give authenticity to the report. Okay, and also one should not forget to quote the source of the news material. Okay, the reference material from where you are obtaining the news. Then we also have reference materials can also include annual reports of the companies, then legislative reports, or detailed project reports, inquiry reports. We also have the statistics, right? Survey reports, and we have directories, encyclopedias, and even biographies can also be used for reference material. Okay, on one condition that you need to cite the reference here. Any doubt? So these reference material can also be used for in-depth analysis of any issue as well. Okay, any doubts here? It's clear? See, all of us are keen to know about more things that interest to us as a reader, right? So news is happening all the time. So now it is a test for the reporters, resourcefulness to know about this, how the reporters are using all these sources in presenting information to the people. Okay, so he should, reporter on his part should try to fulfill all the 5 W's and 1 H in his story to incorporating all these sources. Okay, which we have discussed in this class. So since it is not always possible to be present at the actual scene of the event, it is important for the reporters to develop and tap potential news sources. And also he should learn how to tap these reliable sources. And what are the, I told you there are somewhat reliable sources and other forms of sources, primary sources, routine sources, written sources, all these types of sources. Okay. Then we have also dealt with on the record, off the record, right? The last mentioned is very important, see, off the record, because since this is a test of reporter's trustworthiness, right? The ability to keep a secret. He should not reveal this information to anyone. He should keep it to himself. Okay. So sources are not developed overnight. Right? Sources are not developed overnight. So they are cultivated as a result of the communication skills of the reporter. Okay. So of special importance as source of news are interviews. Okay. And these interviews calls for special skills. And then I told you advanced preparation is needed. You need to inquire adequate background knowledge about the person concerned and the subject of the interview. It can be of great help since this could be valuable. It could also save valuable time of the sources as well as a reporter, right? So we should always keep in mind all these things before writing a story, and you should also develop your sources. in a reliable manner. Okay. So any doubts? If you have any doubt, please let me know. Okay. Okay, Pallavi. Sashi. Okay, Sashi Kumar. So that's all for today. We'll discuss in next class, okay? Next week. So meanwhile, if you have any doubt, you just let me know. Sure, Shashi, I'll give you important questions, but after these classes, okay? Once we complete the entire syllabus, I'll give at the end. Okay. Okay, then bye.